think the outpouring of positive energy from fans of makeup and practical effects is so invigorating. We meet with a lot of young directors who come to us and they say they remember the feeling they got when they watched a movie that had a makeup or a creature, a practical thing in it, and they want that for their films.
Monster making should be fun. If you're not having fun making monsters, then you're doing something wrong, because it's the greatest thing in the world to be able just to create creatures from nothing, from your imagination. So, because of the way things are, you know, when you're building creatures for somebody else, you know, everyone has an opinion, so it's nice to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna create my own universe, my own sandbox to play in, and that's exactly what I did.
The baton to keep this going and to keep the love we have for movies and monsters going. But it has to be to people that love this industry and want to make the coolest, most badass monsters ever seen on film.
Hello, I am Ted Haynes for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. I am what you call a foam fabricator. As a foam fabricator, what I do is I cut a lot of foam. We use it primarily for prototyping. When we've got a new creature, a new character that we want to quickly prototype with just in a couple of days. The foam fabrication lesson to begin with will be 2 lessons. The first one's going to take you through the designing, patterning, up through the basic shape of the Tyrannosaurus Rex that I'm building. So you'll have an entire surface in here that'll keep it nice and flat. Tack these into place, but that's all about getting ready for our textures. So we gotta solidify the shape, but I'm happy. I'm getting to a point here where I'm seeing the form, and it's getting really fun. So a lot of sanding now, a lot of finishing up these little areas. Second lesson is all texture. So it's going to be adding the sheet foam, different thicknesses, different techniques for texturing the skin layers and bumps, lumps, scale patterns. The teeth, sculpting the teeth in L200 foam. What I'm doing here with the T-Rex in foam fabrication is taking it all the way to a finished product. And so you can use this, obviously, for doing anything from Halloween costumes to low-budget filmmaking. So let's get started. Let's start chopping up some foam.
One of the magical things about a maquette is that the client comes in the room and they look on the table and there's something looking back. And so one of the things that I'm going to try to do during this lesson is have perhaps a smile, perhaps a frown, anger. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we're going to explore expression as well as design elements, okay? And once again, I think if you can, I think all of us in looking for design should include a moment of performance that goes along with that character. Why? When the director comes in and meets this being for the first time that you've delivered, you want a situation where that director comes over and says, oh, you got me. This is amazing. This is what we're talking about. This is the character I wrote in the script 6 months ago. And here he is, and he's looking at me. Nothing, in my opinion, beats a maquette. A three-dimensional representation there on the table in front of the clients. And I've seen this so many times. And you have to smile to yourself when it starts to happen. You have these nerves and you have these expectations of how you want your meeting to go. And in come all of these people in the suits, and you're surrounded, and they start to design. They start to make their contributions to the work that you've done. That's the most exciting, that's the optimal, that's what we're all trying to do, is communicate with those clients, with our friends and with our associates, and get on the same page. And that's really what a maquette is about. I had a great time with you today. Thank you very much. From the Stan Winston School, this is Don Lanning.
I'm Jamie Grove from the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a Predator helmet. We're going to do a nice shiny version, and we're going to do an extreme battle damage version. And the cool thing about today is we actually got some castings, some resin castings, out of the molds from the very first Predator. So it's exciting for me to do it as well, and I'm going to show you every step of the way on each process and how I got to achieve these looks.
Hi there, I'm Cesar DeCal Jr. for Stan Winston School of Character Arts. Come with me as I take you through a tour of ZBrush. We're going to be exploring all the aspects of ZBrush that are going to allow you to sculpt and get into design. This isn't just any type of designing. This is designing with a forward momentum. What is designing at its core? Designing at its core is basically going through the motions of getting as many numbers as we can out. And then eventually what ends up happening is that you start stumbling upon what I call the happy accidents. What is that all about? How can I get from A to B to C to all of a sudden get to Z so that I'm getting the goal? Save often, save all the time, because that will be the version that you're gonna need. We wanna put some curvature to it. We wanna make it whimsical. Over compress a region so that it looks more dynamic. It's very easy to fall in love with detailing. Detailing without the foundation is worthless. I'm really gonna start tightening up all these forms. And we have fat and we have tissue, and so don't go in and make an crochet model. You want to use every single layer to the best. Every polygon should be used, and nothing should be wasted. So there's moments for everything. So come on in.
I'm Bill Corso, and welcome to the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. My lesson that I'm going to be teaching is creating a character from script to screen. In my lesson, I'm going to be meeting with an actress, and we're going to be discussing a character. In this case, it's going to be involving beauty makeup and aging makeup, which happens in a lot of films. We're going to talk about the character, aspects of the character, maybe different ways on how to age her. We're going to discuss the process with her so she's comfortable and see if she has any ideas to bring to the table. I'm then going to do a Photoshop previs of what I'm thinking about and present it to her and to the director and get their approval. The next step would then be I'm going to create my makeup out of prosthetic transfers, prosade transfers, because we're going to do it as if we don't have a lot of time and a lot of money on this production. So I'm going to show the process of sculpting prosthetic transfers on a generic face cast, floating them off, and then applying them to the actress. On test day, we're gonna start out with a nice beauty makeup. We're gonna then transition that into the prosthetic transfer makeup, and then we're gonna be able to stand back, look at kind of both side by side, talk to the director, see what his opinions are, see what the actress's opinions are, and hopefully learn from whatever mistakes we make, and I'm sure we're gonna make a few. So that's part of the fun, that's part of the process, and it's always exciting, it's always different, and I'm glad to have you on this lesson with me.
Hey, this is Don Lanning for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. While I'm talking, you're going to see the sculpture go off. This is not a situation where I'm going to sit there and slow down and finesse something or do something like that. The purpose is to show you how I block out. A lot of sculptors that I've worked with, I learned so much by watching them. My goal here today is to have you watch a lot of subject matter go off in a very quick format. big hope is that you take some of these lessons and use it in your own work. So let's jump right in.
Hi, I'm David Monzingo from the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. Today, I'm going to teach you how to build this, and we're going to make this fight turn real ugly. Let's go.
I'll kill you! No. Taking you out! No. I'll kill you! No. You shouldn't have hit me! You shouldn't have hit me! I'm sorry, buddy.
That's it.
Just spraying blood off the side of a building, covering up a murder.
Hi, I'm David Monzingo for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and I'm going to be teaching a lesson on constructing a rod puppet. Why don't we start off by talking about what exactly is a rod-controlled puppet? Well, basically, of all the different kinds of puppets to build, how do you move it around? There's hand puppets, there's animatronics, and there's rod puppets. Rod puppets are basically a character that has points coming out that are controlled externally. Unlike an animatronic that has servos or hydraulics or something inside that's motivating the articulation, rod puppets are performed externally by a puppeteer to move things around. The cost of digitally removing a rod or a series of rods is far less than creating a whole digital character or, say, creating an animatronic character that doesn't have rods. That's why these have become so popular, because you can get all the articulation that you want to see, all the nuances of one of these puppets without having to have the expense of going all digital or having to create an animatronic that's very time consuming and very expensive as well. Almost every single puppet we do for any feature film or commercial has at least some portion of it controlled by a rod. Even if it's an animatronic character, there's some facet that will be puppeteered by a rod-controlled mechanism.
Howdy, boys and girls. This is power. Power that can be controlled. Power that you can manage. Now get the feeling of brute power in your own hands with Jesse Gee's fantastic new Junkyard Robots. Learn to mold robot parts. Learn to make parts that look like real metal. Learn to use power tools to bend the robot parts to your will. Yes, power tools, just like the real grown-up robot makers use. Get the power that only you can control. See Jesse pick the parts. See Jesse put them together. Then learn to do it yourself with flashing fire rocket lamps and spooky glowing robot eye. Be sure that you ask for Jesse Gee's Junkyard Robots, the new sensational lesson from the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. And you will learn to have the power. And remember, kids, if it says Gee, then it's for me.
Hello, I'm Jordu Shell for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. And today, I'm going to be showing you how I go about creating a humanoid character maquette. It's so important to have patience with yourself as you do this stuff. And I know that because I've had a million frustrating times attempting to create things throughout my life. You know, when I was hit with a challenge, you know, it could be very, very frustrating if I couldn't get it right away. It's very, very important to be patient with yourself as an artist and to be patient in your learning of the medium, whatever it is, whether it's latex, silicone, clay, you know, whatever it is. Be patient with yourself and with the medium. You will get there. It may take longer than you want, but you will get there. To get all these proportions just right. It's such a specific thing, and it's something that we see every day. You know, that the tiniest piece of clay can make all the difference in the world. In creating this, I will be able to use it as a guideline for everything that is subsequent. In establishing whoever I cast the body of, I can use this as a reference and say, this is the pose. And to use it to compare against when posing my actor, when tweaking the figure in whatever way I do. This is kind of a guideline for everything that I want the finished piece to be.
Hi, I'm Rick Allenson for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. Welcome to my lesson on animatronic character servo control.
I'm Richard Landon for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and this is my lesson on Cable Basics, Introduction to Cable Mechanisms. We're going to do a quick overview and some construction tips on how to build single-axis, double-axis, and multi-stage tentacle mechanisms that are of all sizes, shapes, and constructions. This is cool, this is sexy, I like it. How do I make this into a working tentacle? We're going to be discussing tentacle mechanisms, finger mechanisms, and how they can be applied as elephant trunks, monkey tails, cat's tails. The nylon provides a lot of return, and the opposing cable provides the rest of the return, and it goes the opposite direction. Pretty much any kind of monster appendage you would care to know.
Hi, I'm Rick Lazzarini for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and this is my lesson on organic mechanics. It's moving. This is a long lesson, and it delves into what it takes to get a lot of expressiveness out of an animatronic creature. In this lesson, what it shows you is you've got to have all of these servos going, and for each servo, you've got to have, now it's a unit. Okay. Now I can actually take if it's a little too rough. Now we got to do a bunch of other stuff to this. I can take a Dremel sander to it, bigger hole, and here's a bigger one to embed that pulley there. So I'm going to go a little bit beyond that. When I put this back into its space, all right, let's double check. Nicely fits in there. I'll probably have to do a little more grinding, a little more clearance here, so it can rotate, because I didn't cut it in a perfect circle. That's going to be full open. I think I need to take away some from there. If I don't get them in the right place, they'll be aligned, and you've got to picture the skin being attached to that. And it's going to look silly. We're going to be actuating. There's a silver on this guy. That's because I, with servos, fluxed it with acid. So here's where it indicates 10% of the rate B, 10% of the rate A. I'm just going to do the right side because, again, I want to get this all done, and I want to put the skin on. And if I like the way that this looks, then I can duplicate it on the other side. Roll this up. These top teeth are going to fit inside. There's a lot of movement going on there. So if this is all the way down, if I turn the receiver back on, you can see the space is limited inside. Now I've got that jaw, once again making sure I'm at the mid-range. Okay, I'm going to do something else. As I mix this propoxy, I'll tell you a little story. I'm going to do something else. I got another call for a squirrel today. Just say no to squirrels. Let's see if that accomplished my dreams. This is always a weird part put the lower because you're taking so I'm going to lose what was kind of a robotic understructure, and then you're adding a skin to it. So that's going to happen. What I'd like to do is to complete this and so further for the next lesson. I think we want to get into making the eyes move, making the eyes blink, and adding a little bit of lower eye expression. This has been Rick Lazzarini for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and I hope you've enjoyed my lesson on organic mechanics.
Hey there, I'm Steve Johnson for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. And this
I'm
is
Billy Bryan.
And today we're going to show you how to design outside of the box. We're going to show you something you never could have imagined, because that's kind of what you have to do with audiences when you have to do an effect. You have to show them something they never dared imagine. Mr. Bryan here has come up with some amazing techniques to fabricate creatures, and we're going to show you exactly how he did it. So Lord of the Illusions was the first one, and then we used it in everything from, let's see, Species. The big cocoon that Thomas Henstrid comes out of, because you can make tentacles that can breathe really easily. We used it on Sphere. We made jellyfish. We used it on Phantoms. We made an amazing thing on Phantoms. We used it on every chance we could. One of the great things about them is you can make a shape get this big, but it gets so tiny when it's not inflated. So we can easily hide these bladders that were multi-tentacled under appliances, have them scored, and then when you inflated them, it's like, how in the name of God did that come out of there? Rick Baker called me up on Men in Black.
I can barely hear him.
Webinar taught by Fon Davis, who is a veteran of the Star Wars films, the Matrix films. He worked at ELYSIUM for years. He worked at Kerner Optical for years, and now he is a new creative partner here at New Deal Studios, where Stan Winston School is headquartered, and we're very excited to be starting a relationship with Fon as a teacher. His upcoming webinar is going to be 3 exciting weeks of live interactive online instruction. Fon is going to be teaching you to build your first sci-fi helmet using vacuum forming techniques and all of the other techniques he's picked up over the last nearly 30 years working on the biggest blockbusters you've ever seen. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming course. We're going to show you where you need to go if you're interested in signing up for the course, and we're also going to talk, which I know will excite all of you, about Fon's career in movies. We can talk about his experiences working on Star Wars 1 through 3 and on the Matrix trilogy and everything else. Without further ado, let's introduce Fon to you guys. We're going to switch to our studio feed where Fon is live with the rest of the team, and you get to meet him.
Welcome, Fon. Hey there, how's it going?
Hey, how are you, Fon?
I'm doing
great. It's really, really great to have you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person today. My wife had some very important tasks for me to handle at home. So I'm doing this from my house. I wish I could be with you there. But we're really, really excited that you're joining us for this exciting course. And today is really about giving people a sense of what you're going to do and fielding questions. So I would love to now hand the torch to you, and so you can talk a little bit about yourself. Just give them a feel for your background, and then we can talk about the class a little bit.
Awesome. Well, hello there. My name is Fon Davis. I've worked in the motion picture industry, as you said, for over 25 years, on over 30 different feature films, numerous commercials, and all kinds of stuff. I'm very, very happy to say that my career has been filled with a lot of variety, and I've been able to work in a lot of different capacities on motion pictures and television. And
today is really... I'm sorry, Fon. Keep going.
Oh, I just heard something. Anyway.
Yeah, a little technical glitch.
All right.
Keep on.
Yeah. What show would be good without a technical glitch?
It's live. It's live.
Live. That's how you know we're live. Anyway, but I started my career at Colossal Pictures back in the late '80s, doing stop motion commercials, a lot of station IDs and music videos, things like that. And one of the directors at Colossal Pictures was Henry Selick. And so when he went to do Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, he actually brought all of us with him, and that was my first feature film. I ended up working...
Not a bad first film. Wow.
Yeah. It was an incredible experience because one of the things that Henry wanted to do with that film, and this really gave me a really good foundation in the practical VFX industry, is he wanted to do everything in camera. So we didn't do any compositing in that movie at all. There was only one computer graphic effect that was kind of added at the very last minute. But everything else was old school. We actually did double exposure of film, since we were shooting on film, we actually would shoot the scene, and then if there was something like a candle or some element in the shot, we'd rewind the film and shoot on the same piece of film the fire that would go on the candle. So there was all these really, really great tricks. They used beam splitters for the zero ghosts, so they would actually use a piece of glass in front of the camera to reflect Zero, who was shot off on the side in front of Velvet, and then the scene with Jack Skellington or whatever would be in front of the camera. And just a lot of really, really great practical tricks. So that was my introduction to motion pictures. It was
and for most people, I think that would have spoiled them, but you went on to work on the Matrix trilogy.
Yeah.
The Star Wars movies. I mean, it just kept getting better.
It did, and it did.
Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with those films.
Sure. Well, a lot of the motion picture industry is meeting people, and you are constantly building and taking apart teams for every feature film. And on Nightmare Before Christmas, I happened to meet some people who worked at Industrial Light and Magic, and so I spent the next 10 years at Industrial Light and Magic after the 5 years we spent at Skellington doing Nightmare Before Christmas and James the Giant Peach. And of course, I arrived at ILM at the perfect time because they were just ramping up on the Star Wars special editions. And for me, that was a really big deal because I grew up watching the Star Wars movies, and that's really what got me into the motion picture industry. That's kind of what sparked that interest in the behind-the-scenes side of movie making.
You are not alone. So many of us.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So that was spectacular, and of course we did the prequels, and we did Starship Troopers and Pearl Harbor. People like Michael Bay like to blow things up, so that was always very exciting. And it's been spectacular. I can't imagine a better way to make a living. So.
Well, you're sharing your knowledge with the Stan Winston School students, which is an incredible treat to take these things you've learned working on their favorite movies and teach them how to make their own sci-fi or space helmet using those same techniques that you've used on Stormtroopers and many other things blows my mind, and I would love to talk to you a little bit about the course. Let's, in fact, I would like to introduce Chris Vaughn to everyone, our moderator. Those of you who join us for these are well aware of Chris by now. Chris, can you pull up the sign-up page? And as we're working through it, Fon can discuss the plan for the webinar.
Yeah, Matt, I'm going to have to pull you off the screen for just a second to do that, but yes, sir.
That's absolutely fine. In fact, to all of you, I think pull me off the screen. We'd also like to field your questions. So after we get back from the webinar discussion, let's let you guys start asking Fon questions about his movies. And Chris, I would love for you to moderate that since I'm having trouble here from home. So let's just switch over to that webinar page and check it out. Fon, talk us through it.
Yeah, so basically, in talking with the guys here at the Stan Winston School and, what the focus is here in terms of not just learning the craft, but also getting into the design aspects and character. And for me, I always really enjoyed hard surface costumes like Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, and numerous other armored suits and things like that, and how much power they have just in the way that they look, and how much of the story you can tell with the visuals of something like a helmet. You put that on, and that actor, that performer becomes a different person. And those designs can be very iconic. A perfect example is my daughter, Violet, saw a Darth Vader action figure once, and she had nightmares. She'd never seen the movie. She didn't know he was a bad guy, but just the look of that character design and that helmet was enough to convey that this was a very bad man, and that's one of the reasons why I thought this would be an exciting lesson.
Here's the page, Fon. Chris, do you mind if Chris talks us through?
Yeah, let me talk everyone through the page. So at stanwinstonschool.com, you can come in and see Fon's webpage. It is listed under webinars, and it has this cool banner here of him working on, I'm sorry, just a second, has this cool banner of him. I think that's you working on R2-D2 there. And you can, we have 3 levels for Fon's course. A professional level, which gives you a 1-hour private Google Hangout with Fon so that you can discuss professional level details of your career or anything that you'd like to know about model making or armor fabrication. The second level is a critique. During the 3-week course, Fon is going to be giving you feedback on your progress as well as homework assignments. There is forum access and lots of interaction with the instructor. And lastly, we have the watch and chat option. The watch and chat option is going to give you the experience that you have right now, where you can still chat to us on YouTube, and I'm about to ask some of you guys questions. You've asked some great questions. And have the experience, but you don't get the critique, you don't get a certificate, and you don't get the interaction with the instructor, but it is still a wonderful deal. And let's go ahead and go back to Fon and let him tell us a little bit more about himself, and we will ask him some of these questions.
Hey, Fon, you're back.
Hey. Yeah, so this should be pretty exciting. What I'd like to do with the class is not only show you how to do a unique design, science fiction helmet, but also go over how to actually build a vacuum forming machine. Because once you've made a vacuum forming machine, you can make an infinite number of props and models and of course, armor and helmets and things like that. It's a very good tool for that. The material is really lightweight and real easy to work with, and pretty inexpensive, really, in terms of model making and a lot of the things that we work with.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic! I just want you went by it very quickly, but to teach people to build their own vacuum forming machine is huge. As you said, it's a critical tool in the creature effects industry, the model making industry, all of these industries, and people are clueless as to how to make their own. I'm clueless as to how to make one. I'm so excited you're going to teach us how to do this, and we're going to be using items that they have access to put together these vacuum forming machines. You're not going to be using out-of-this-world materials, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, actually, and this is one of the machines I built. I think it's been over 25 years I've been using this little machine, and this is one of those things I just needed it for a project one day and decided to build it, and I had it built in a day. They're pretty easy to make because it's really just a heater and a vacuum, and then there's some tricks to making it all work, but it's a pretty simple thing to build, and once you have it, you could do so much, So that's why we'll start with this, and this actually is, like I said, it's a tool we use for everything, so should be a lot of fun.
Well, it's very exciting, and as you said, once they build it, they're going to have it for 25 years just like you and crank out endless art, so
yeah.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Fon, so let's talk a little bit about once they have their design, once you vacuum formed, I'm assuming you're going to be sculpting some sort of buck or creating a plaster buck for the shapes of the helmet. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, and it's like you were saying before too, I'm going to keep the vacuum forming machine, I'm going to keep all the techniques and the materials that I use for the class kind of as pedestrian as possible. So, things that hopefully people can get wherever they live, because I didn't want to get into, there's a lot of high-end materials that we use in motion pictures that would make it inaccessible possibly for people to actually create these things. So I wanted to really keep it accessible for everybody at home. After we build the vacuum forming machine, one of the things that I'll go over is how to actually make a pattern. So you could vacuum form over that pattern to get, hollow plastic parts. And then, of course, I'll get into how to assemble those parts, how to detail those parts, and then the last thing we'll do just for fun is get into some paint techniques as well as, including aging, of course, and then also some electrical, putting in some LEDs and some kind of fun stuff that way.
I didn't know you were doing electrical stuff.
Well,
that's so fantastic.
It's something
like a Cylon.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be exactly the Cylon. I haven't completely nailed down the design, but it's going to be.
The possibilities are endless, and that will bring these helmets to life enormously.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm sure that our viewers have lots of questions. Chris,
Absolutely.
let's start throwing some questions.
So
to
I'd just like to throw a comment out from Laura, and she said, now I have to go watch Nightmare Before Christmas and a Star Wars marathon again.
That's awesome.
Let's see, 20th Century RG wants to know, what is the approximate cost of the vacuum form table?
You know, my vacuum form machine, I think, is pretty funny actually, because I looked into buying one. They were going to be very expensive, and there was a very long waiting list and wait time to actually get a machine when I built mine. And I think they were selling for $1,400. And I, you know, I thought about it, and I was like, you know, I think I could build this for a lot less. I ended up spending only $500. And that includes the $250 welder I got at Sears to build it. So it's pretty inexpensive. And you know, you don't have, there's different levels of vacuum forming machines, and there's different ways you can build them. You know, I've built several actually through my career, because sometimes you build a small one, and of course the next time you need a vacuum former, you need the next size up or huge. So you can take the knowledge of vacuum forming machines and really apply it to all different scales of vacuum forming machines. There's even one that I've built that's less than $100. So it's not, you're not locked into spending a lot of money for a vacuum former necessarily, unless you want to, you know.
That's awesome. BC Strings One wants to know, do you use 3D printing at all? I started a Southern Idaho 3D printers group on Facebook.
Yeah, we've used 3D printers for quite a long time. It's still a new technology, so
Oh no!
It's all right. It's all right. I know someone who can fix those things. Anyway, so again, proving we're on live. Anyway, so 3D printing. Yeah, 3D printing is something we've used a lot. It's still a new technology, so we're not using it as much as you might think we would use it, because it's still expensive. The machines are still a little finicky. But it's an incredible technology, and it opens the doors to a lot of kind of new techniques and new ways of fabricating things. So, you know, but ultimately, it just becomes one more tool in our arsenal. And I say that because every job you do in this profession requires a different discipline, requires different materials. It really depends on the design of what you're building. You know, so sometimes 3D printers can be invaluable, and sometimes they're just sitting in the corner collecting dust. It really depends on the project.
And I know, I'm just sorry to interrupt here. Great question. I just want to reiterate that right now you have just joined our good friends at New Deal Studios, where we are headquartered as a new creative force, and they are deep into 3D printing technology. But as you said, the old school techniques sometimes are faster and cheaper and just as effective. And I know that Shannon Gans, Matthew Gratzner, and Ian Hunter of New Deal Studios embrace the same mission that we have with Stan Winston School, which is to use everything. There's new technologies that are great, but if a 25-year-old homemade vacuum form machine gets the job done, it's just as cool. So,
yeah,
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm very, very happy to be here. I've kept in touch with the New Deal Studios guys for a long, long time, and we've been friends. We've always traded notes on you know, the state of our industry and the way we approach different things. And I've done a lot of lectures and panels, of course, with Ian. It was something that we kind of knew would happen eventually, my coming down here and joining them, because we've been on a parallel path, and we're philosophically the same in the sense of not just you know, doing creative things, but also being a part of the creative community and doing things like working with you guys at the Stan Winston School. You know, so it's great to you know, be able to share all these really great tricks that you know, we would otherwise take to the grave. You know,
and not to mention that Los Angeles weather is pretty awesome. So I'm sure that was part of the reason that you relocated.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we're happy to be. We're all working together at New Deal Studios now, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is great to be here.
So go ahead, Chris. I'm sure we got a lot of questions coming in. It's back to you.
Absolutely. The best question I've gotten so far is, or it's a statement from Deborah, and it said that we've proved that stormtroopers can at least hit the floor.
Yeah, they can't withstand an attack by Ewoks, but they can fall over okay. The armor has some use.
So, Fon, what are the limitations you run into when you're creating a helmet? This is from Cold Image.
You know, the limitations are also driven by the design. You know, a lot of times with helmets, the biggest difficulty is actually making them to where people can wear them and see well. In fact, in a lot of motion pictures and in television shows and stuff where people are wearing this gear, they actually have handlers to keep them from tripping over things and running into walls and that kind of stuff. I guess the same goes for people in creature suits. They can't see anything either. But I'd say that was number one. Comfort, of course, is one of those things you have to really think about when you're building these things, because a performer might be wearing these things for, you know, an entire day on set. You might install fans to keep them cool. You might, you know, you ideally want to make it easy to take on and off. That's not always the case. I've certainly seen difficult helmets to take on and off. Like C-3PO actually had 2 screws, so to get that off, you couldn't just lift it off. Stormtrooper helmets, you have to kind of put them on sideways and twist them on. So, you know, the design is actually what usually creates the difficulty.
So, Deborah would also like to know, what kind of big ticket items do you need to purchase to get started in this as a noob?
Well, for this particular lesson, you know, the goal is to not actually have any big ticket items. You know, there are, you know, possibly if you want to weld the frame that holds the plastic, when we get into that, that might be something you'd want to do with a welder, and you might want to purchase a welder. But those, you know, there are ways to do it without, and I'll go over ways to build a machine without a welder as well. So, you know, the goal is to not make it a very expensive venture, you know, unless you want it to be. You know, that's the thing about creativity. The sky's the limit, you know, so you can take that knowledge that I teach you and hopefully, you know, use it not just on what I'm teaching, but on a multitude of other projects of your own.
Fantastic. Let me take a minute to go over the course page one more time with everyone. So this is Fon's course here on the Stan Winston site, and to get this, you're going to go to stanwinstonschool.com and you're going to click the webinars button, and it will take you to a listing of webinars. You will see Fon's webinar there, and we have 3 levels: a professional level, which is $549. It is a wonderful opportunity if you are a working professional or a hobbyist who is ready to become a professional. Not only do you get the critique from the class and the homework, you're going to get a 1-hour personal Google Hangout with Fon to talk to him about anything that you want to talk to him about business-wise. Fon has been doing it for 30 years? Is over 30 years now, Fon?
Over 25.
25. Okay.
30.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Fon.
And, he started when he was 8 years old.
Yeah, it looks that way on IMDb
paper?
because I did work on the Star Wars special editions, and then when we got our credits for those movies, they still list the movies on IMDb by their original release date.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So it actually does look like I started in the industry when I was 7 years old.
Oh. So the second level is going to be the critique level, and it is $399. With the critique level, you're going to get homework assignments. You're going to get on-screen interaction with Fon, and there's actually a reference monitor up here that Fon can see you during the whole class. Him and Matt are staring at each other right now. So it is really like being in a live classroom with Fon. And so that's the $399 level, and then the $149 level, which is very affordable, is the watch and chat. It's what you're doing right now. You can type in questions, and we have a general Q&A at the end of class where Fon can help answer those questions. But you don't get quite as much feedback as you do from a critique or a professional level. And let's go back to you, Fon.
Hold on, Chris. Let's make sure everyone knows these dates. We do these on Saturdays. This particular course is on Saturday, right, Chris?
Yes, it's March 22nd is the first day of class.
And it's from 9 to 5, right? 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
And then we take a break for 2 weeks to give you guys a chance to do the homework. There's going to be a fair amount of homework after that first class. Design, getting your vacuum form machine going, I'm sure. And then we get back together April 5th, all day Saturday. And then the following week for your final class. And then you will have a final assignment to execute after that final class, which you will share with Fon through the forums to get your final certificate and your grade and such. But it's great. We all hang out all day Saturdays. We're doing Saturdays to make it convenient to as many people as possible. And just wanted to add that. The dates, very important. But now we can go back to questions.
That's guys, I'd like to encourage everyone to write in any questions that you have for Fon.
While we're waiting, I have one because I'm a Star Wars nerd. What is your favorite Star Wars moment as a craftsperson?
Oh,
perhaps your favorite character to have worked on, or your favorite experience working on those films.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting working on the Star Wars prequels because it wasn't quite as nostalgic as I thought it would be. Those ended up feeling a lot like every other film that I worked on. Great, don't get me wrong, but it just, because everything was so unique, it didn't really kind of trigger that nostalgic feeling. The most exciting thing that I got to do when working on the movies was actually on the special editions. So, you know, taking out one of the old R2-D2s that's actually made out of aluminum from the original New Hope series and repainting it, or repairing Stormtrooper blasters. Repairing Boba Fett's costume was a lot of fun.
I'm so jealous. Well, I want to hear more, but I'm going to quickly interject. I have one moment similar. Back in 1977, my dad, Stan Winston, worked on George Lucas's least favorite Star Wars creation, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special, back in '77. It was a family of Wookiees on Kashyyyk. Chewbacca comes home. We see all the various characters from the movies. And Dad, one of his tasks was to create Chewbacca's family, the mom and the kid and the grandpa. And for reference, Stuart Freeborn sent out the original Chewbacca mask from the film out to our house in Northridge, California. And for that month or two or three or whatever it took him to build those, we had that Chewbacca mask at my house. And I wore that mask for hours on end. I mean, I probably wore it as much as Peter Mayhew. That's what I'm guessing. But that's my Star Wars story. So go ahead. I interrupted, but I had a walk of nostalgia.
Yeah, that's fine. Actually, it reminds me, that was actually one of the really interesting moments when we were working on Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. There was the whole Wookiee battle thing, and we actually had Peter Mayhew on set shooting a bunch of the stuff there. And we did a crew photo while he was on set. And it was really interesting because, you get kind of used to working around all the Star Wars kind of universe things, and it, as exciting as it is, it's still work, So you're there and you're at work, and it's like, yeah, we're going to take a picture with Wookiees. That's cool, whatever, And so we go out there and we're getting ready for the picture. And, I'd seen Chewbacca's costume on like appearance actors and stuff like that a lot of times, and it was cool, but it wasn't nearly as awesome as it was to actually see Peter Mayhew in the Chewbacca costume, because he's got a very unique walk and body language, So to see him walk out of the building in the Chewbacca costume, just immediately I was 7 years old and just I was like, holy moly, it was no longer just the Chewbacca costume, it was Chewbacca, so yeah.
That's right. You can't separate that character from Peter Mayhew.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You brought him to life. Without him, he's just a costume on a hanger.
Yeah.
Same with Kevin Peter Hall in Predator, and Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Not just the suit; it's the actor inside who brings it to life.
Yeah, it was always fascinating to work with those things too, like the C-3PO suit in particular. We had done a couple of them while we were working there, and I got to meet Tony Daniels, and there were some really fascinating things with the body language of C-3PO that I learned were not. I always thought that this was part of his performance, you know, his holding his arms like this. But as it turns out, the C-3PO suit, if he straightened his arms would slide down. So the only way he could keep his arms from sliding down was to hold his hands like this. So that became...
You mean the forearms would literally slide off his...
They would slide down, yeah. So that iconic C-3PO kind of body language is actually dictated by the way the costume fit. You know, so.
Oh my gosh,
just kind
that's
of
hilarious.
Funny behind the scenes stuff.
That suit, I know that is probably one of the tightest fitting suits. I mean, there's no clearance there. It's as tight as an Iron Man helmet.
Yeah.
And I have such admiration for Anthony Daniels, the work he does in such a constricted suit. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. He has to actually go on a diet before putting on the suit because it's so constricting. I actually tried putting it on and I fit almost everywhere.
Wait, hold on. You got to put on a C-3PO suit?
Yeah, it was a test fitting, and I was about the same size as Tony Daniels at the time, except for my rear end. Apparently, it was too big to fit in the shorts. Everything else was the same.
Not too big, too shapely. Anthony Daniels has a flat tush, so don't worry. This just got weird. So did you ever try and fit into? I know. I'm trying to think of his name. Was it Kenny Baker, the original R2-D2 performer, right? Kenny Baker. Did you ever try and get inside R2-D2 and operate him?
No. I pretty much knew my limits when it came to that particular outfit. But we did have those R2-D2s around that had, you could see inside. They had the little handles and the straps for them. It was pretty amazing to be around all that stuff. A lot of history there.
Wow. Well, I know that during the live course, we're going to be hanging out for between the 3 days, probably over 20 hours with our students, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of opportunities to share more of these wonderful stories. I can't wait to hear them personally. Hey, Chris, do we have any questions? I don't want to ignore our viewers. All right, hand it back to you guys.
So, Chaucer44 says, Fon, I worked with you at your studio a few times in Northern Cali. What kind of materials are you using to create the master pattern for the vacuum foam?
Yeah, this one I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna try to use floral foam. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to approach it because a lot of what we do is troubleshoot on the fly, so I'll actually be demonstrating exactly how we do things professionally. I'll be troubleshooting on the fly using a new material. We usually use a surfboard foam. It's a type of urethane foam that's really easy to shape, and it comes in different densities depending on what kind of form you want to make. But this one, again, I wanted to keep it really accessible and use materials that people could find locally, wherever you are, you know.
Let's see. Isaac wants to know, were you ever involved in the Predator costume? I don't think so.
No, that was Stan Winston. Yeah, we did. I was in Northern California, so you know, there was a lot of visual effects groups down here in Los Angeles as well. And it's one of the reasons I moved down here. But we did all the Star Wars movies and a lot of Michael Bay stuff, and we did the Matrix prequel or sequels up in Northern California as well. A lot of stuff, but not the Predator.
How often do you alter a concept artist's helmet design in order to make it wearable?
Right. That's a great question. You know, I've always been really interested in this aspect of, you know, being a model maker, being a costume fabricator, prop maker. You know, we always joke, you work from anything from a napkin to a blueprint, and the amount of creativity that you have and input you have in a design also varies a great deal from job to job. you know, something like a helmet, you know, you want to stick to the artwork as much as possible, but there's a lot of things that the artwork either doesn't show or it doesn't fit into the world of physics. So yeah, you do have to do a lot of changes and modifications as you go, and you just try to keep the storytelling, consistent with the artwork. And because that's always what really matters, is like, what is the story that prop is saying? I always say we're doing visual storytelling. No prop is just an item. It says something. If it says something very simple, then that's what it's saying. If it says something very complex, that's what it's saying. So with costumes, it's either saying I'm scary, or I'm nice, or I'm sophisticated, or maybe it might even say I'm stupid. It's like that's all those things. That's what a good design is really about, is telling a story without actually saying anything. So we try to maintain that story, even if we change details.
And let's see, Cold Image would like to know, has a director ever asked you to change a design after it was completely done? How do you handle that?
Yeah, it doesn't, budgets are pretty important, and so, we don't get a whole lot of changes, big changes, say like the day of the shoot. That doesn't happen frequently. It does occasionally happen. It's not common because, the key to a successful day of shooting is planning. So that kind of thing doesn't happen too much, but occasionally, yeah, you get the requests for changes, and when you're in the design stage, or if it's a fabrication stage that is also partly the design stage, expect the changes, roll with them, do the changes, because that's how you're going to arrive at the best end result. Once you're locked into a budget and a timeline, a lot of times you do have to, there's a certain amount of negotiation that goes into how much you can change something based on, basically the laws of math and physics. Those are things you can't change. So it is a challenge sometimes, but for the most part, you just try to communicate openly from the very beginning of a project, and it helps to get in early on a project and be involved from the start to the point where you're shooting, and that really avoids all those kind of crazy last-minute changes.
That's fantastic.
You're getting dozens and dozens of
absolutely. They are just pouring in. Do you have any tips on buying a welder?
Buying a welder?
Like a TIG or a MIG?
Am I allowed to plug brand names?
Yeah, absolutely. Plug away.
I am most happy with my Miller-Matic welder. I got one that runs on 110 and 220. I believe it was around $500, but it's a wire feed welder, which is very easy to use, and it makes me even appear to be a better welder than I am. It's so much fun to use because it's really hard to get a bad weld out of it. So yeah, I'm really happy with my Miller-Matic. Now I have used less expensive, like the Sears Craftsman brand welders. Nothing against those, but the one I bought was very low end, and I used that for a long time, and there was nothing wrong with it, but the Miller-Matic was definitely a lot better.
Matt O'Connor wants to know that besides PETG for vacuum forming, what other plastics can be vacuumed?
Yeah, there's actually multiple plastics that we vacuum form. There are definitely more popular ones for different uses. Styrene being the least expensive and probably the easiest to work with, but it's kind of soft. And so if you want something a little stronger, we use ABS. And then PETG if you want to go with clear. So those are the three most popular vacuum forming materials we use.
And David has a wonderful question. What has been the best experience in your or biggest challenge in your professional career?
Wow, that is a very good question, but it's a very difficult question to answer, and I'll probably have a different answer every day you ask it. Having worked on so many projects, just even trying to recall all the different situations and it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't know. I could say that I really enjoy the variety. I guess I'm going to answer that in kind of a cop-out way.
No, that's okay.
I like the variety of materials and people and techniques and stories, and directors are always trying to do something new and different. So for me, it's always a great thrill to, do, a different project and have different challenges every single time I go to work. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy that variety, and I enjoy the fact that it never gets old and it never becomes easy, actually.
Awesome. What was the, that question has been refined. What was the most challenging aspect of the Matrix trilogy?
Boy, we had so much fun on that movie. I don't know that any of it was a challenge. No, I think the fact that everything was so large, we did what we started calling bigatures on that movie. I guess Weta had also coined the term when working on some movies there. But the models were all 1/10 scale. So we built the doorway to Zion was actually 30 feet wide and 16 feet high. And the hovercraft was 30 feet long, and we actually crashed it through the gate. And so I guess the most challenging part of that is the fact that we were working in such a large scale. But it was just great to work with that team. It was such great designs, and it was so much fun that it didn't really feel like a challenge, because we were just kind of hitting every day hard and just trying to get everything done and focusing on the energy of creating things, So, yeah, that was a really, really fun project.
And hold on just 1 second. I seem to be having some audio issues. There we go. So, if you get a chance to cosplay your favorite character, who will that be?
Wow. That's funny. Having moved to Los Angeles, one of the things that I discovered is there's a lot of theme parties down here and a lot of need to have costumes, apparently. So, great question for the timing, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. This might date me a little bit, but I always thought it'd be fun to do Captain Harlock. I've been told that I would be a pretty spot-on character from Farscape. I haven't actually watched the show yet, but there's a captain, I guess, that has a goatee and dark complexion. So I was looking into maybe doing that. Of course, Star Wars. Anything Star Wars. Love Star Wars. Always have. Yeah. I guess that's it.
How long did it take you to make your first vacuum forming machine?
The first vacuum former I built was actually the one I just showed you. It was just a one-day project. I've figured out how to do them in under an hour. And then we've also built ones that have taken, a week. So, there's all different types of vacuum forming machines and all different ways you can kind of go about building them. So it varies, but I would say you probably don't want to spend more than a day on it, so you can start having fun making stuff.
Do the vacuum forming materials come in different colors? This question is from Dennis Mortensen.
Yeah, they actually make, it's mostly black and white and clear for vacuum forming materials, the stuff that's readily available. Depending on the plastic supplier, this is kind of a complex question in that, every once in a while we'll look into getting a certain color, because you can get pretty much any color you want, but you have to do, there's like a minimum order you have to place. So you have to order like an entire palette of brown if you want brown styrene or something like that. So one of the things that we have found is sometimes you're lucky enough to find a supplier that's done a run of a particular color, and you can purchase whatever colors that they have on stock from other people's big orders. So it gets a little tricky, but the three basics are white, black, and clear. And it's all paintable materials, so you're not locked into just I think that's why black and white is popular, is because it's a good base color for pretty much any other color you'd want to paint it. And there's some really durable paints out there. We've done a lot of armored suits with automotive paints, and they make these urethane clear coats that are absolutely bulletproof. And that's what we like to use on those, so that there's no risk of ever scratching up the suit, things like that.
This question's right along that same line. Yona Tamblin would like to know, can you suggest a paint that flexes well? I have a problem with intricate paint jobs cracking and flexing if the piece is flexed.
On the vacuum form parts,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think usually if the paints are cracking or flaking off, you know, it might be that they're being put on too thick. You know, ideally you want to use a really good automotive primer, and you want to use a really good automotive paint, and they're pretty strong. And if they have a good pigment, if it's the quality paint, then you shouldn't have to put on a whole lot. If it's cracking off, it sounds to me like it might be too thick. Like it really should be really, really thin, and then it flexes easier with your part.
So Vangold, hi Vangold, wants to know what the most common parts or points of failure in a vacuum form machine are.
Usually, if a vacuum form machine fails, it has to do with the seal you have on your plastic. So if you pull your plastic down, if it's not sealed correctly around the perimeter of the frame, you'll get a leak, and it'll suck in air instead of sucking the plastic down over your form. So that's probably the most common problem with vacuum formers, is just not having a good seal.
Lucky33511 wants to know, that's an internet name, any advantages to working with hand-laid fiberglass instead of vacuum forming?
Absolutely. You know, you know, it goes back to what does the end result want to be? You know, if, say, we're doing something that requires a lot of abuse, and, you know, it might also have to do with the level of detail, you might want to use fiberglass. You might want to vacuum form. It really depends on the design, and the design is actually what always drives the materials that we use. Vacuum forming does kind of soften shapes. So if you want a real sharp edge, you either have to add that back on after the fact, or you might want to do that in fiberglass, you know. So it's driven by the design.
Stephen would like to know, as somebody with an extra large head, I'm sorry, Stephen, is it part of your job to be concerned by making multiple head sizes of helmets, or is it just part of the hiring process, like no extra large heads?
You know, if we're making costumes, a lot of times we're working with the actual performers that's going to be wearing the costume, because it is so specific, and you are really concerned about it fitting, looking good on camera, and being comfortable for the performer. So usually we'll build specific to an individual. Now, with that said, sometimes you don't have the luxury of doing that, and then you do build them just slightly at the, you know, larger size, larger end of average size person, you know, and you just try to find someone on your crew that can try on the stuff that is, you know, maybe slightly above average in size, you know. So, you know, it's a personal decision, I guess, and it's or a planning decision depending on the production. But you know, ideally, you just build it for the person who's going to wear it.
And let's see, Dennis would like to know, so you worked with Adam Savage at ILM?
Yeah, Adam Savage is actually a really good friend of mine. We keep in touch. Grant Imahara and Tori Bellici on that same show as well. And, you know, I've known Jamie for a long time too. Those are all Bay Area model maker, special effects guys. So it's a pretty small community. We all know each other. Everyone up there knows those guys. They're exactly as much fun as they are on the show in reality, you know. Yeah, they're great guys. I love Adam.
And can you tell us, this is Brittany. Brittany's asking, have you ever made your own original character design that was written into a movie, and or are they already pre-made concepts that you work off of?
You know, it varies. It varies from project to project. I've been in art departments, so doing design and development. I've also been on the fabrication side and on set doing photography, and I've also produced my own content. So yes, yes, and no, and yes. Yeah, again, it's like everything else. It depends. But yeah, I've done a lot of design, and I actually personally enjoy being involved in projects from the very beginning at that conceptual stage all the way through to photography. I like to see things through, you know, and it's fun to take something that you've designed and then make it and then shoot it and then see the final result. You know, it's very rewarding, you know.
Fantastic. And this is really from Brad. Can you tell us a little bit about MORAV, about your own concept design?
Yeah, the MORAV is basically, it's a giant robot science fiction series I started working on actually back in 2007. I just started playing around with the idea of doing this series and writing it, and it's kind of taken a life of its own. Released a graphic novel of MORAV back in 2010. So that's available on Amazon if you want to go pick one up. And then also we started working on a live action series, and because there's different parts of the chronology. Basically, it takes place during World War III, the live action series, and the book takes place before World War III. So yeah, it's giant robots destroying things and the world falling into chaos. It's actually a little creepy because I've written a lot of stuff into the story. You know, I wanted to keep it very much grounded in reality, and a lot of the things that I wrote in the story that was supposed to be science fiction actually have started to happen. So I actually got a fun email from a friend last week that said, so tell me how it ends, because all this stuff keeps coming true. It's a little scary. I might have to write some friendlier stories. I don't know. Anyway.
Hey guys, can you hear me? It's Matt.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Hey, I would love to wrap up with Fon after a final reminder about his live course. It's 1:52 now. We have to close this out at 2 p.m.
Absolutely.
So I think now's a good time for a final reminder about the webinar. I think it's also a good time to remind our viewers about our other live webinar that's going on with Corey Chakai on running your own foam and silicone character appliances for character makeups, which is starting a week from tomorrow. So can we go through both of those, and then we'll get back for final wrap-up questions, and we'll say goodbye to Fon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris.
Could you pull that? There we go. So if you go to stanwinstonschool.com and click on the webinars page, you will see Fon's webinar listed in the webinar page, and just go ahead and click through there. We have 3 levels: a professional level with a 1 hour private interaction with Fon, and you can ask him all the questions that you've always wanted to ask from somebody who's had over 25 years of experience in model making and own their own company. And that is, it's a wonderful experience. The critique level is you get live on-screen interaction with Fon. You get a forum interaction with Fon. He's going to give you a final grade, as well as you're going to have homework. The watch and chat is very much what you're doing right now. It's a wonderful value at $149. You get to write in questions, and we will have a general Q&A at the end of the day. We like to kind of keep them relevant to what's going on in the class. And Fon will answer those questions generally for you. Let me click over here to Corey Chakai's lesson. Corey's lesson is creating silicone, and it's $99. It's watch and chat only. It's going to be done from the Legacy Effects foam room. Corey is a master at running foam and silicone. It's 2 days back to back, 8-hour days, and he's going to teach you absolutely everything that you would ever need to know to make your own foam appliance. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And let's go back to you, Matt, for for a final wrap up.
All right. I think it bears repeating. We are all super nerds about the work you've done over the years, Fon, and we're very excited to lend your expertise to our library. We are also very excited to be working right next door to you at New Deal Studios, and we know this is going to be the beginning of a fantastic creative association. And we would like to, before we get to final questions, we're going to say some thank yous to our crew and to New Deal Studios, and then maybe we can wrap it up with a final couple questions for Fon. Huge thanks to the Stan Winston School crew. If you guys are able to, I know I always put you on the spot. It would be great to pan around at this time, and we can introduce everyone. I'm on a little delay here, so Johnny or Chris, can you do the honors and introduce people as we pan around?
Absolutely.
Thank you, because I can't see.
Just 1 second. We got to unhook the crane camera here.
Whoa, there's Fon.
All right.
I don't know what I got.
So let's see here.
What do we have?
We've got a.
Oh, David just left.
David just walked out. We've got Jake Borowski here.
Whoa,
Jake, can you step?
Jake. It's dark in the room.
It's dark in here.
Dark in this room. Oh,
There we go.
Oh, there's a sad
This is
David and
Chris and Damien.
And there we go.
And there's Jake holding the light. John,
There's Fon again.
John, can you give us a selfie?
I'm John. How you doing, guys? We're so glad you joined us at this last minute. This was so much fun. We've been hanging out with Fon for the last couple months while he was in the New Deal building, and we've been pestering him to start with us, and we're so glad we were able to jump in, that you were all here to ask the questions. I don't know if you noticed, there are a lot of people here. There are hundreds of questions. We had a ball. And when Fon starts this course, those of you who are signed up will continue this fun. Until then, we don't have any more, right, Maddie?
Yeah, I think once again, thanks to New Deal Studios, Shannon Gans, Matthew Gratzner, Ian Hunter, and their new creative partner, Fon Davis, for always giving us access to this fantastic movie studio we get to work in. And biggest thanks of all, of course, to Fon Davis, and we can't wait to do this huge course with you. Are there any? Is there a final cool question to wrap this thing up, Chris? It'd be kind of good to go out with a question, and then we'll say goodbye.
Let's see.
Looking for a good one.
You looking? Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da.
Hey, man.
For a good one.
Here we go. What are the dimensions of the vacuum form machine that you will be covering in your webinar?
Excellent question. Basically, vacuum form machines, I personally like to design them so that they create easy to cut sheets of materials. So in other words, most of these materials come in 4x8 sheets, so it wants to be in increments of a 4x8 sheet. So that means like 12x16 is a popular size, 24x24, 36x24, anything that is divided evenly in a 4x8 sheet. The one we'll be doing in my lesson will be a 12x16 inch vacuum forming machine, because there's a lot you could do with that size without wasting a lot of materials. So it's a good starter size of vacuum forming machine to start with.
Well, a great final question, because it gets right back to the topic of this lesson with you, which is going to be using vacuum form technology and fabrication techniques, painting techniques to create your own custom sci-fi helmet with the man who did it for the Star Wars films and the Matrix trilogy and many other blockbusters that we all love. Can't wait. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of you there. And to answer some of the questions that are coming in, this feed that you're seeing right now is going to be uploaded within the next hour or two to our YouTube channel. So if you missed the beginning, you can watch it right there and watch the whole thing.
And I'd actually like to just add to that right now. You can actually go to, if you've got a friend you want to see it, you can actually go to Fon's webinar page, and it's live on his webinar page right now on our site. And they can watch it as soon as we're finished here.
Very cool. So you will be able to check this out if you missed it. And once again, thanks, Fon. We can't wait for the class.
Welcome. Excited to be doing it.
And we'll see you all soon. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you. See y'all soon.
Bye.
That's what you're supposed to do. Dissolve, dissolve. There you go. Yellow's great. A nice last touch. 20 frames
And
of
it's
yellow.
two p.m. on the money.
Yeah.